Okay, so a very good morning. We are the Power Within, a Krav Maga program that is presenting for Life Sports Fitness. My name is Koshin Moskovich.
I'm Richard Denton.
And I'm Tom Purvis.
And today when we start the presentation, we're essentially going to start with breaking down what Krav Maga essentially is and what the Power Within is all about. So the Power Within is a physical program that has been catered to teach children self-defense skills, including Krav Maga, a little bit of MMA, and certain movements that will help them defend themselves and others against any potential physical, social, or cultural threat. The program will also help them to boost their awareness levels, be able to identify threats through relying on the idea of the 5-second rule, as well as develop their physical and emotional strength in any situation.
So when we talk about the need of the hour, we're talking about basically self-defense as a whole, not particularly one thing, but it works out perfectly for our program because we're focusing on one of the skills and taking it in for kids to learn. So we think it's very important that kids nowadays, all over the world, should be taking up some type of self-defense to protect themselves in certain situations, whether it's bullying at school, or it might be home violence, or there's always a threat around the next corner and they always need to be prepared for that. Not only do they need to be prepared, but it's fun for them as well to enjoy.
So I think essentially, to elaborate a little bit more on the need of the hour, you're not only looking at a physical threat, you're also looking at equipping your child with the ability to stand up for themselves through verbal protection as well, putting them in a physical program that will allow them not only physical skills, but to be able to boost their confidence and esteem levels will develop your child socially as well. So when we're looking at Krav Maga and the Power Within, we're looking at kind of ticking off all the boxes that happen in today's culture and society, as well as global issues, bullying, sexual assault, rape, even shooting sometimes. We're going to try and address all of these issues. Now, according to Evolve Daily in 2019, we have seen that building your child and providing them with any sort of physical program will build up their responsibility, their confidence, as well as the integrity.
So with this program being for social impact, we looked at, when we were initially creating the project, looking at these key pillars for the program. So developing a healthy lifestyle and good well-being among the kids who are in the program. Also trying to promote gender equality within the group, and also reducing inequalities within society as a whole. And these key ideas actually align perfectly with the UN sustainability goals.
So tying these ideas in as well, gender equality, good health and well-being, and reducing inequalities is also highlighted indirectly in Life Sports Fitness and their core values, which, as Tom said, are the pillars of our program. Building up the responsibility, integrity, awareness, and protection of a child is exactly what the UN development goals are all about, and our program caters to all of them. Looking at gender equality, as mentioned, we want to eliminate risks that happen in the workforce 20 years down the line. Looking at society today, we understand there's a big pay gap in many organizations where women are paid a lot less than men. According to Rowley in 2015, we have seen that if you empower your child at a young age, it goes a long way when they enter society in the real world. So uniting men and women, boys and girls at a young age can help them develop the ideals of good health and well-being in the changes of society and our culture. Looking at the right program requirements, we've narrowed down 3 of the main central requirements for the success of the Power Within and Life Sports Fitness. The right team, the right facility, and the right program. The right team obviously looks at who the stakeholders of the program are, including the instructors, the project sponsor, the project manager, and many more.
The right facility, we chose Lynn because we think it's perfect for our program. It's a very social impacted incorporated campus, and they have the space that we need and the space that we require in order for us to complete this project.
So looking at the right program, we thought that Life Sport Fitness was a natural fit just due to the some of the values that they have and the thoughts and ideas that they try to instill in the children that run in their programs. We think this could align very well with the Power Within.
So as a whole, the right team, the right facility, and the right program will be further outlined when we talk about stakeholder engagement and our human resource plan.
Yeah, so this human resource plan, it really acts as a visual aid to show the chain of command throughout the entirety of the program. So just looking at it now, we have Life Sport Fitness at the top, with them being the ideal sponsor for the program. Underneath is Desmond Dogan, and then underneath that is the project manager. The project manager and Desmond Dogan will communicate through meetings as well as emails to give Desmond the appropriate updates on the program, how it's being run, possible issues that are being run into, what deliverables are being discussed, So it'll really be a very transparent connection between those two stakeholders. And then underneath we have obviously the instructors who will be communicating with the project manager. Again, just sort of updating the project manager on where the project is, the deliverables that are being met. And then underneath is also the project supervisor, who looks at the overall safety of the program as well as the equipment. And then finally, vendors who will be in charge of supplying things for the program.
So essentially, as Tom mentioned, the human resource plan not only outlines the chain of command for the success of the Power Within the Life Sports Fitness, but also lays out how the communication is going to operate. So later on during stakeholder engagement, we will be able to see that there is going to be weekly status and review meetings, which essentially are addressed for all. Since Desmond Dogan is the project sponsor, we're not going to include him in every single meeting, but we will use him during the kickoff and the finalization of the program. The project manager is, of course, the central line for the program, and everyone is answerable directly to him. And essentially, when we're looking at the status and review meetings that are going to happen once a week, all of these entities will need to be present. Moving on to talk about stakeholder engagement, we're going to be understanding the project manager, the project sponsor, and the instructors, and how the three of them intertwine.
So going on to the project manager, this person really is the centerpiece of the program and really needs to be engaged throughout all processes of the program itself. He needs to be informed of when changes are being made to the program, how the project is actually being run, potential risks that are being had during the course of the project. He needs to know any documentation that needs to be sent for any changes in equipment or anything of that matter. So really the project manager needs to be engaged throughout all aspects of the project.
Yeah, and following up from what Tom said, the project sponsor is basically in charge of all the capital that's needed for this program. So they need frequent updates of pricing, budgeting, whatever they need in order to complete this program.
And then we look at the instructors, of course, who are responsible for the physical training sessions of the program. So the Power Within is an ideal program that will be conducted over the summer between the months of July and August. It's a 3-week program that will run 3 times a week, where we're going to teach your children every possible skill from 360-degree defense, how to get out of a choke, how to address the 5-second rule, and how to better identify threats and any potential acts of harm. So when we look at the instructors, basically one of the biggest stakeholders is 2 instructors and 2 trainers for the Power Within. And we have certain credentials that they have to meet. Essentially, they have to at least have a 5-year minimum experience of teaching Krav Maga and working with children. This, in turn, has become one of our main risks that will be addressed. So transitioning into understanding some of the main program risks, as with any physical program, you have to outline the risks to kind of boost up the success rate of your program. So we've come up with 3 main ones. The first one, of course, as mentioned to us in the beginning of our course, is Desmond's Dogan idea of how we're going to run on capital. So the first risk is actually attaining liquidity for the program, having enough money to cover the program as well as the daily expenses for operation. The second one is, of course, as mentioned, it is a physical training program that involves certain movements from getting out of a choke to learning the 360-degree defense. So of course an injury can occur. And then the third one, as we said, is since our instructors have certain requirements that they have to meet, including a 5-year minimum experience, we have a possibility of running into a risk with identifying such instructors.
Yeah, so with any risk that is identified for the program, we also need to identify mitigation for that specific risk. So first, going on the idea of capital, this will be handled before the program, trying to identify a budget for how much capital we'll need to run the program successfully. Going on to injuries, obviously with the program being run at Lynn, we'll have the medical center here to deal with smaller injuries, but ideally we want to tie up with a larger hospital to deal with more serious injuries. And then finally, with the issue of instructors, we're going to attempt to tie up with local academies that are also practicing Krav Maga in order to solve that potential risk.
So essentially, as Tom mentioned, when we're looking at injuries, since we mentioned it's a physical program, yes, if we use Lynn University, as Richie mentioned, as our ideal facility for running this program, tying up with the health center will allow us to mitigate responses early on. In addition to this, since we're tying up with a medical facility in the case of serious injuries, of course, kind of to mitigate this response and avoid it early on, we're going to be procuring the best type of equipment to use, as Richie will elaborate on later. And in addition to that, the instructors, since we've laid out these requirements, we kind of thought about the idea of tying up with Krav Maga academies that are on a bigger scale, teaching these programs not only children but also adults, and have this set of trainers on their board. So transitioning and talking about budgeting, we have understood from Desmond Dogan and Live Sports Fitness that capital is essentially the name of the game for the success of any program. So these are some of the main ideas that we talk about. And as Tom mentioned, in order to avoid the funding risk and to mitigate it early on, predetermining the expenses will be a great success for the Power Within. So we've identified the facility partner, that's the cost for renting Lynn University facility, the average instructor salary, of course, and then Richie will elaborate on the equipment.
Yeah, so basically, as Hoshin and Tom said, when it comes to injury, before we even get to the stage of going to the nurse or to the hospital or wherever it may be, we need to make sure that we provide the right equipment for them. By providing the right equipment of the correct quality, it kind of decreases the risk of injury. And when we talk about it, we looked at Dick's Sporting Goods, and basically we need two things. We need conditioning pads and floor mats. And they each came up to $280 for 10 for conditioning pads, and then $320 for 12 for the mats. This is perfect. This is exactly what we want for our facility and for our kids, to ensure that they are training safely and that to decrease these risks of injury.
So in addition to what Richie added, just to build off that train a little bit, when we looked at these costs, of course, as we talked to Dick's Sporting Goods, one of the closest shops in Boca Raton, we also got the idea from them that since we're a social impact program and we're working under Live Sports Fitness, we will be able to receive a discounted rate for these equipments, so which will ultimately be extremely beneficial to both Desmond Dogan and Live Sports Fitness.
Yeah, so after establishing the budget, it was important for us to establish expectations for the program and where we can ultimately make profit, because profit is the name of the game. It was important to establish a pessimistic expectation, so almost like a worst case kind of scenario, a moderate expectation, and then finally an optimistic expectation. So looking first at the pessimistic expectation, this would be for Life Sport Fitness to break even based on the budget that we've created. So roughly we'd be looking for 7 kids, paying around $200 per week, which that number was created by doing extensive research on the website and looking at what other programs are offering in terms of the cost. Then looking at the moderate profit, we would look for roughly around 15 kids, and that would sort of create the building blocks to start creating a profit for the program itself. And then finally, the optimistic or the best case scenario would be for 30 kids to run in the program, and that would be a substantial profit.
So essentially, as with any organization, of course, with the Power Within being a social impact mission, we still want to profit around it. So ideally for Live Sports Fitness, we are aiming for an optimistic profit. We hope that we will be able to get 30 or more students registering for the program, since it is a unique program to Live Sports Fitness and they don't offer such things yet, considering they specialize in golf and other programs, so we do have a unique selling proposition for the company.
And then these are the references that we use in our presentation.
So just a little bit before we conclude, essentially laying out the Power Within, we've seen that in today's society, we can really bring a big change and we can come together with the Live Sports Fitness organization and the Power Within to make a big change in society today. Thank you. Okay, so a very good morning. We're the Power Within and we're presenting for Live Sports Fitness. My name is Hoshin Moskovich.
My next on purpose.
I'm Richard Denny. What the fuck? Stop laughing.